The Nico Iamaleava era has begun in Knoxville, Tennessee. It really began during the bowl game, but yesterday, man, you got to see your Vols in spring game mode. Now, Neyland wasn't at full capacity. They're, not 100% opening up that stadium just yet with a couple of things being done. But the bottom line here is you got to see 11-on-11 football. And if you're a sicko enough to watch a spring game reaction, then you found your home for college football content year-round, because we're a little bit sick enough ourselves to do a spring game reaction video a Sunday morning after it happens. So bottom line here, we're glad to have you all a part of this. Make sure you're subscribed. Heck, double check you're subscribed if you've been rocking with us here for any length of time. We appreciate y'all in advance for doing that. Also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at JDPikel. Want to hear what y'all thought of this spring game yesterday. Because me personally, if I'm a Tennessee fan, I think I saw enough to hold me over till the fall. Because listen, going into this thing, we knew Nico Iamaleava wasn't going to play 4 quarters. You weren't going to see him throw the ball 30 times. You got to just see a little bit of an appetizer to get you excited for the fall. That was exactly what he did. He looked poised. He looked comfortable. He ran the offense. He didn't just run plays, but he ran the offense effectively, threw a nice little touchdown strike, enough to get you over until the fall. So that was really the big thing for me, is like, okay, Nico is going to be at least comfortable is the right word to say, right? Like he looked like he was confident, poised, controlled running that offense. We actually were fortunate enough to get out to Knoxville last week and watch a full spring practice. And I'll say this, what we saw in that spring game lined up with what we saw of Nico behind closed doors. Now, the rest of that quarterback room is probably what you're looking at. If you watched that spring game yesterday between Gaston Moore, Jake Merklinger, the young buck out there throwing it around, I was impressed by both of them, to be honest. Like, Gaston Moore is more than likely your guy if, God forbid, something were to happen to Nico at the quarterback position. He's got some it factor to him, does Gaston Moore. I don't think he's going to, push anybody in fall camp here to take over that job, and that's not throwing shade, but you feel confident with his understanding of the system. I appreciated seeing a little bit of playmaking ability from him yesterday. Jake Merklinger, again, he's young, but he was throwing the ball around yesterday, used his legs pretty well. You saw enough to get excited about the future with Jake Merklinger, and I think you felt confident enough coming out of that spring game if you're a Tennessee fan in, okay, Gaston Moore can steady the ship if the absolute worst-case scenario somehow were to happen. Now, the wide receiver depth is something we talked about after our visit out to Knoxville, and I was really encouraged to see guys like Chris Brassel step into the fold and have a big touchdown catch from the spring game. You'd heard about him behind closed doors during spring practice. That overwhelmingly, showed itself yesterday, I thought, in some key spots with that big touchdown catch. Mike Matthews had a nice touchdown catch in that game. I think when you look at this unit compared to last year, they are so much deeper than they were a season ago. And that's not to throw shade at what they were last year. It's just like, hey, you're going to get Brew McCoy more than likely healthy for the duration of the season. You're going to get Squirrel White, who led your team in receiving last year. But I said this on a previous video. Squirrel White led your team in receptions with 67. The next closest guy had 35. There's going to be a lot more wealth to be spread around in this offense with Adante Thornton getting another year and getting healthy, with a Chris Brassel, who I already mentioned. Mike Matthews is battling for playing time. I'm sure I'm missing some players here that I'm not even talking about, but the bottom line here is you feel like you have many more answers offensively that you didn't have a year ago. And with Nico's ability to extend plays, you can't cover these dudes for just 3 seconds. It's going to be a 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi when he breaks contain as a new play and they get open. So a lot to be excited about if you're a Tennessee fan on that front. The defense, and I'm always a little bit hesitant to really evaluate a defense when it comes to a spring game because you're not teeing off on the quarterback. You're probably not showing your most exotic blitz. Like, it's a different tempo defensively that you're operating under. Sometimes you see coaches blow the whistle early when you watch a spring game, and they'll just do a thud tempo. But what I will say, when you look at Tennessee up and down, and the spring game was no exception, the quality of roster on the defensive side they have is, I think, as good as they've had since Josh Heupel's been there. And that's a big deal because remember 2022 when that magical run that Hendon Hooker had everybody on and they went and beat Alabama and they threw the goalpost in the river. Like, that was an awesome, awesome season. But everybody looks back on that year and says, well, we were dependent on the offense to score 40+. Otherwise, it was going to be a long day at the office. And the defense wasn't as bad as I think a lot of folks would like to make them out to be from that season. But I'm just saying, roster comparison from that season to this season, night and day different. They feel like they have a lot better depth, especially up front in the trenches, do the Vols. James Pierce, you didn't really get to see him cook yesterday in the spring game, but like he is going to be an absolute headhunter when it comes time for the fall. He'll probably be a first-round pick whenever it's his time to go to the NFL. You feel really good about how you stack up to meet the price of admission to winning the SEC. Because, yes, you got to score points, and the rest of the conference, I think, is going to dictate as much with Texas being in the conference now, Georgia and how often they score. Kalen DeBoer is running the Alabama show over there. He's going to be probably an offensive force in his own right with Jalen Milroe. Like LSU, like you see what I'm saying here. Across the conference, you got teams that are going to score and force you to answer scores. Feel like you have that with Josh Heupel running the show, but the defense now is in a much better spot to stack up, get more stops, and help you win some games. So it's a spring game. Take as much of it as you would like to. Take as much from this as you want to. We just try and take a temperature of what happened in the spring game and not make a definitive statement, but I will say this. When you look at Tennessee, there's a lot of pieces to where you see this team and you say, yeah, they got a chance. If some things fall into place for them and some things translate how they would like them to, they're going to have a chance. Wide receiver play I already mentioned. Quality on defense. Let's be real here. Limitless potential at quarterback with Nico, a top player, not just top quarterback, top player from the class of 2023, frustrated on 3. Really solid culture. When we saw them practice at the indoor last week, it was not a running around with your head cut off kind of operation. It was we know what we're doing. We procedurally know how we're doing this. There's a standard that we're operating at within this team from a team period to special teams to 7-on-7. We do things a certain way here. And I'll say this, that matters. That matters, especially when you have the goal of winning a conference title. Now, they will make some adds through the portal. I fully believe that. But when the dust settles now, I would not be surprised if Tennessee was right there in the mix come November. So, if you're a Tennessee fan, enjoy this. Let me know on Twitter and Instagram how you felt about this. I want to hear from y'all, but also make sure you're subscribed because, again, spring game, we're talking about it, you're watching it, we deserve each other. All right, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.